The United Terran Coalition heavy cruiser Baltimore from the planet Earth transmitted its greetings to all peace-loving beings in the galaxy. The humanoid Thriven ambassador, initially struggling, glanced up at the view screen. "Repeat, this is the United Terran Coalition cruiser Baltimore. We wish you everything good from our planet. It is our procedure to initiate first contact with communication. We mean no harm." The insectoid captain of the Federation of Interplanetary Races Starship Nostalgia acknowledged the message and responded, "This is the Interplanetary Races Starship Nostalgia." "Do you understand this transmission?" However, the humans never replied. This marked the first exchange between the Federation and the United Terran Coalition. A tense moment as the Federation warship was dispatched to investigate a brewing conflict between the Thriven Republic and the Coalition. The Thriven, agitated by the sudden appearance of the Coalition on their borders, demanded military action. Yet the Federation, wary of war after recent conflicts, hesitated. The Coalition's swift aggression, taking Thriven colonies, left the Federation with no choice but to act. The Federation, still licking its wounds from a war a decade prior, was hesitant to intervene directly. The Thriven, though not well liked, were still part of the Federation's responsibility, but the Coalition, which had emerged seemingly out of nowhere, was an enigma. They struck with precision, capturing Thriven colonies without the usual chaos of war. They didn't bomb cities or invade with ground troops. Instead, they disabled orbital defenses and moved on. Their actions were calculated, almost methodical, and left the Federation puzzled. The Nostalgia's captain, Ornat, was tasked with confronting the Coalition's nearest flotilla to ascertain their intentions. Despite his skepticism about the Thriven's honesty, Ornat knew the Federation couldn't ignore the situation. The Thriven ambassador, usually arrogant, was visibly shaken as they approached Coalition space. The Thriven's nervousness was unusual, and Ornat suspected they were hiding something. The Coalition, meanwhile, remained a mystery, their actions and motivations unclear. As the Nostalgia closed in on the Coalition's position, Ornat opened a channel to the Baltimore, attempting to establish dialogue. The humans were surprisingly accommodating, showing none of the hostility the Thriven had warned about. The Thriven's claims of Coalition brutality seemed exaggerated, if not entirely false. The human ships, named after cities and people, carried an air of history and tradition, something Ornat found oddly comforting. The Thriven, however, grew increasingly agitated, their fear palpable. Ornat, puzzled by the disparity between the Thriven's panic and the humans' calm, pressed for answers. The Thriven ambassador's evasive responses only deepened Ornat's suspicion that there was more to this conflict than met the eye. The human ambassador, when asked directly why they hated the Thriven, replied with a cold, calculated stare, leaving Ornat unsettled. The humans claimed they were at war, but the reasons remained unclear, shrouded in mystery and resentment. The human ambassador, during a diplomatic meeting, revealed a piece of history that sent chills through the room. He played an old recording from Earth, where humanity had reached out in peace to the stars. The message, filled with hope and goodwill, was met with a devastating response. The Thriven, it seemed, were responsible for an ancient attack on Earth, hurling asteroids at the planet and killing billions. The recording detailed the chaos that followed, with cities being destroyed and entire nations wiped off the map. Humanity, then in its infancy as a spacefaring civilization, barely survived the onslaught. The ambassador's voice, filled with quiet fury, recounted how the Thriven had shown no mercy, aiming to annihilate humanity before they could even defend themselves. This act of unprovoked aggression had left Earth in ruins, and the survivors had spent centuries rebuilding. Now the Coalition was determined to exact revenge, driven by the memories of that cataclysmic event. The human ambassador's words hung in the air, a stark reminder of the horrors of war and the long memory of a wronged people. The Thriven, once a mighty and feared race, now cowered before the humans they had once sought to destroy. The evidence presented by the humans, a detailed compilation of data showing a Thriven ship in orbit during the initial attack, was undeniable. The Thriven's attempt to cover up their role in the atrocity had failed, and the truth was now laid bare. The Federation, caught between two ancient enemies, found itself in a precarious position. The humans, though willing to negotiate, made it clear they would not rest until the Thriven were brought to justice for their crimes. The Thriven ambassador, faced with the undeniable truth, could only watch in silence as the Federation's leaders absorbed the implications. The war that had begun centuries ago was far from over, and the Thriven now faced the full wrath of a species they had once thought inferior. Ornat sat in silence, his mind racing as he processed the information the human ambassador had just revealed. The recording had been chilling, a stark contrast to the formal diplomatic exchanges they had experienced so far. The Thriven had always been a proud, secretive race, but this revelation painted them in a new, horrifying light. The idea that they had been responsible for such devastation, targeting a fledgling species with no provocation, was almost incomprehensible. Ornat could see the tension in the room, the other Federation representatives shifting uneasily in their seats, their eyes darting between the human and Thriven ambassadors. The Thriven, usually so composed and haughty, now seemed small and vulnerable. The humans' calm demeanor only made the situation more unsettling, as if they had long ago come to terms with the horrors of their past and were now simply waiting for the inevitable reckoning. The Federation representatives, caught in the middle of this ancient grudge, were at a loss. On one hand, they had their obligations to uphold peace and mediate conflicts between member races. On the other, the evidence against the Thriven was damning. Ornat could see the gears turning in the minds of his colleagues, weighing the political and ethical implications of taking a stand against the Thriven. But the humans were not asking for intervention, they were merely presenting the truth and allowing the Federation to draw its own conclusions. This approach was both strategic and ominous. The humans, it seemed, were giving the Federation a chance to choose a side, but it was clear which side they expected them to take. Ornat found himself wondering if the humans had always intended this, to expose the Thriven and force the Federation's hand. The ambassador's parting words echoed in Ornat's mind, "We will not stop hunting them until their home world falls." The Thriven ambassador, his facade of arrogance shattered, could only stammer weak denials. He tried to explain away the evidence, claiming it was ancient history, that those responsible were long gone, and that the Thriven Republic of today bore no responsibility for the actions of their ancestors. But his protests were half-hearted, and even he seemed to realize how futile they were. The humans had kept their grudge alive for centuries, and now they had the power to exact their revenge. Ornat watched as the human ambassador stood, his movements deliberate and controlled. He placed a small device on the table, a data drive containing records, reports, and scans from the time of the attack. "This is what remains of our history," he said quietly. "We lost much, but we did not forget. We offer you this not as a demand for justice, but as a record of the truth. What you choose to do with it is up to you." As the meeting adjourned, Ornat felt a deep unease settle in his chest. The human ambassador's words, though measured, carried a weight that could not be ignored. The Thriven, for all their posturing, were now in a precarious position, their past sins laid bare for all to see. The Federation, which had always prided itself on its impartiality, now faced a difficult decision. Ornat knew that whatever course of action they chose would have far-reaching consequences. The humans had made it clear that they sought no alliances, only justice, but their power and determination were unmistakable. Ornat wondered what would happen next. Would the Federation stand by the Thriven, risking war with the Coalition? Or would they distance themselves, leaving the Thriven to face their fate alone? The possibilities swirled in Ornat's mind, each more troubling than the last. In the days that followed, the Federation Council convened to discuss the situation. The debate was heated, with representatives from various member worlds voicing their opinions. Some argued that the Thriven's actions, no matter how terrible, were a matter of the past and that the current Republic should not be punished for the crimes of their ancestors. Others believed that justice must be served, that the Thriven should be held accountable, regardless of the time that had passed. The humans remained silent during these discussions, their presence a constant reminder of the stakes involved. Ornat, though not a member of the council, was privy to the discussions as part of the Nostalgia's mission. He could see the division forming among the delegates, a split that threatened to weaken the very fabric of the Federation. The humans had introduced a moral dilemma that the Federation was ill-prepared to handle, and the implications were becoming increasingly dire. As the council reached an impasse, the Thriven ambassador made a desperate move. He proposed a diplomatic summit, a final attempt to negotiate peace between the Thriven and the Coalition. The Federation, eager to avoid open conflict, agreed to mediate. The summit was set to take place on a neutral planet, with representatives from all involved parties. Ornat, now deeply involved in the situation, was selected to accompany the Federation delegation as an advisor. The atmosphere was tense as the various ships converged on the meeting site. The Thriven, their backs against the wall, were uncharacteristically cooperative, but Ornat sensed it was more out of fear than genuine willingness to resolve the conflict. The humans, on the other hand, were calm and composed, their intentions unreadable. As the summit began, it became clear that the outcome would determine not only the fate of the Thriven Republic, but also the future of interstellar relations. The negotiations were fraught with tension. The Thriven ambassador pleaded for leniency, offering reparations and even territory in exchange for peace. But the human ambassador, ever stoic, simply listened without committing to anything. The Federation, trying to play the role of neutral mediator, found itself increasingly sidelined as the humans and Thriven locked horns. The Thriven's desperation was palpable, but the humans were unyielding. They recounted their history with cold precision, detailing every atrocity committed against them, and refusing to accept anything less than complete surrender from the Thriven. The Federation representatives watched helplessly as the situation spiraled out of control. Or not, feeling the weight of the moment, knew that whatever happened here would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. The summit, intended as a last-ditch effort for peace, was rapidly becoming a stage for the final act of a centuries-old vendetta. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says we will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.